your life as it has been is over. From this time forward, you will service us.
No, we will not service Washington.
Mr. Worf, fire.
It helps if you turn the mute back off. But welcome to another Renegade and the Rambler show, Saturday edition, because we're busy on Sundays, so we moved to Saturdays again. At least for now. We'll see how it works. Been a busy couple of weeks. Haven't been able to get on here. So how you been, Jeff? I know you've had shows going.
Yeah, we did some shows. I did a show last Monday, and Suzanne did one, and then we did a show on Wednesday. Suzanne did a show on Wednesday. So because we both were away, I was up in Maine. She was in Wyoming. My vacation ends tomorrow. I'm back to work Monday. Not very happy. So if I'm a little cranky tonight and I get upset about these stories, about these idiots that waste our money, well, now you know why, because I'm going back to work Monday.
Idiots that waste money? Aren't you a government employee? Aren't you supposed to be happy they're wasting money? I mean, isn't that job security for you?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. Well, it's just funny. They always seem to waste money on things that are completely useless. Truth be told, everyone knows pretty much that I work for a state in law enforcement, and because as such, I'm in a union, and we're now coming up on 3 years without even a contract. So they waste money on all this other stuff, but they won't even give us a raise. We haven't had a raise in, I don't know how many years now. 5. Who knows? I don't remember.
That's okay.
So
the trucking company I work for, our contract's up the end of July. We still have yet to see a proposal. Yeah, and the one that came out for our sister branch, yeah, that one in my division would not pass. So we're all like,
yeah. So anyway, I mean, I'm not a big union guy, so don't take it that way. Honestly, I don't like unions. I have no choice. If I want this job, I have to join the union. It's a closed shop. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I have a feeling yours is a closed shop as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's actually inside of the contract that's a closed shop.
Right.
Plus,
well, that's
in Pennsylvania, we are not right to work. So You're either in the union. If you're union, you're in the union. If you're not union, you're the fair pay or whatever. But you still have to be in good standing just to work there. Of course, nobody ever gets fired for not being in good standing anymore, but yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think we had any intention to talk about this, but it just is what it is. And it kind of fits with what we were going to talk about first. So anything else new down there, down in the the central part of the state?
Well, I mean, I forgot to mention this to you in prep, but there was a bill moved out of committee. I do not remember the House bill that it was in the PA legislature that would basically say the police can come take your firearms because they, quote, believe you're a threat.
Yeah, I know there's a whole bunch of them that are going through. That's not the only one. There's
like 4 or 5 of them.
There's like a half dozen of them that are going through there that are awful. I don't, like I said to this one guy, there's one group is calling for people to go down there and, defend their Second Amendment rights. And I'm like, no, you don't go down there and defend your Second Amendment rights. You don't have a Second Amendment right. Go down there and defend your natural right. And beyond that, the Second Amendment has nothing to do with this. The Constitution that matters in this case is the Pennsylvania one. It's Article 1, Section 20, or Article 3, Section 21. Is that what it is? I can't remember now.
I'll look it up.
I think it's Article 3, Section 21, or Article 1, Section 23. I don't know. It's something like that. It's the Pennsylvania Constitution that matters. And so that's what I said. Listen, stop arguing the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment doesn't apply in this case. Beyond that, the Second Amendment never gave you a right. And so I actually had some people like it. I expected to be excoriated in that group, but honestly, I never had one person give me say a word to me about it. And one guy or two guys liked it. So, and I can't see what that is.
Well, anyway,
say something. Say something so it flashes. It changes screen because it's a small screen, so I couldn't see it because I was talking.
Okay. It says, as soon as I get it, it says Pennsylvania Constitution, Article 1,
Section 21. I was bouncing all around it. I had it I had it surrounded.
Yeah, the right of the citizens to bear arms in defense of themselves and the state shall not be questioned. So that begs me to ask, why do I have to get a concealed carry permit?
Oh, well, again, most of these laws are unconstitutional by our Constitution.
Yeah, it's a joke. It needs to go away. It shouldn't have ever been there in the first place. I can't believe it even made it out of committee.
Well, I'm not quite sure where it's going. It's going to come out of committee. And again, there's all these Trojan horse bills. They're all or red flag. They're called. A lot of people call them red flag bills now. That's become the new word. What they're going to do is they're going to say that a lot of them are like, if a family member says that you're a danger to yourself and others, that'll give them. They can go to court without you being there. You can't even respond to the charge. It's all done in secret, and then the police show up your door and confiscate your firearms. So there's
no due process at all. There's no way for you to contest it. Once the firearms are given up, you'll never see them again because they'll be lost once the court orders them to be given back.
Right. This is a very dangerous thing, and that's what, again, when we've talked about firearms in the past, Suzanne, we've all touched on them before. I mean, we've probably talked it to death, but it still bears saying. This is a natural right. Don't say you have a Second Amendment right. You don't. It was there to be an absolute restriction. They never were given any authority in the Constitution to regulate firearms. Go to Article 1, Section 8, and find firearms other than one mention, and that's in relation to the militia, and that when the militia is called up to federal service, they're to arm them. That's the only mention of firearms in the Constitution at all, outside of the Second Amendment, where, because they wanted to make sure that they understood they couldn't do it, they said again, explicitly, they couldn't do it.
Wasn't the Militia Act reaffirm all that too?
You know what? I've never read the Militia Act, and I really ought to. I should take the time to read it. But the fact of the matter is, after the fact that it's not enumerated, so they have no authority, the Second Amendment, if you read, and those of you out there that are they're screaming at your radios because I say you have no Second Amendment right, read the preamble to the Bill of Rights. The framers tell you exactly why they put it in there, and it's not to guarantee you a right. Why? Okay, I'm going to back up. I'm going to go off on a tangent here, Daniel. Okay. Did the right to bear arms pre-exist 1777, July 4, 1776?
Yes.
Daniel.
Yes.
Did the right to bear arms? Oh. Did it precede 1787 when the Constitution came into existence?
Yes, it did.
So how in the heck how could that possibly be? Because if the Second Amendment gave us our right and we demand a Second Amendment right, how could it possibly be that those people had firearms before they were given the right by government?
Because it was a natural right given to us by God to defend ourselves.
Thank you. Done with this. That's the end of the discussion. You people out there demanding a Second Amendment rights, you are putting yourself in the absolute worst position you could possibly put yourself in, because you have now ceded your natural right to become a civil right, which is controlled, regulated, or taken away by government.
Well, and we've already seen how inept the Supreme Court has been at trying to, quote, protect any so-called rights that we were granted. If you get pulled over in a car now, the state police no longer need a warrant. They can claim it's, quote, public property in the public space. So you don't need a warrant to search your car. So there goes your quote, Fourth Amendment search and seizure. I know there's one in the state, but I can't recall the exact article. There goes that. There goes the Second Amendment's been is a joke, because if infringed was what it actually was supposed to be for, I'd be able to build a nuclear missile and keep it in my backyard, as long as I can control the radiation, not kill myself with it. But
right,
that's what the founders intended it to be. Let's see, what's the other one? Okay, freedom of religion. You don't really have freedom of religion anymore, because if you say
to bake a cake,
yeah, and then you're sitting down there going to 9 unelected men that dress like women and begging them to rule in your favor.
Well, just the other day, they just passed tax law the other day. We now have to pay internet taxes everywhere because they decreed it.
Yeah, they said
it's not a law. They just made it up law.
The state can tax it. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, they just made up law.
I still want to know how a state, say Pennsylvania, is going to march down to Texas and demand taxes from a Texas industry when they don't have any jurisdiction outside of the borders of PA. Are they going to start stopping shipments at the PA border and making us show tariff paperwork? That's the only way this is going to work.
I have no idea. But the oracles in Washington, the 9 politically connected lawyers in black dresses, decreed that we have to pay sales tax on everything anytime it's purchased online. Period. And the states are going to have to somehow collect it all and return it to other states. There is no, what I said this online, what this ruling in effect did, it made us we already were, so don't take this, but it put the final nail in the idea of plural states. We are now the United States. They did away with every border. Now all the states are all equal, and they all have to foot the bill under the federal government, or whatever you want to call it, general government, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. They've put the final nail on it. It's now a national government. There are no borders. Any thoughts, Daniel, on that one?
No, I was going to say that was done away with in 1861, but
yeah, the states are still states for a while, mostly. I mean, the whole thing is, I don't have the article. I have it somewhere. I just didn't print it out. They're trying to add more things to the schedule of the drug schedule, so they can have they can expand their drug war. And it was an article where the Democrats were going to give Sessions more power in this drug war because they're adding more stuff to it. So, and the states, there are some states that have stood up and they have recreational marijuana. And that's the way the states should handle this. Same way that states handled the Real ID Act. For the most part, it's still not totally implemented because 29 states told them to pound sand. The federal government has no jurisdiction. Where in the you know what? I'm not going to say his name. I actually called a Sirius host on Sirius Satellite and I asked him, show me in Article 1, Section 8, where they gave them the ability to have a national identification or a national ID. It's not there. But this guy's like, well, this is not a suicide pact. Oh, well, that's okay. Well, let's just forget the Constitution. This isn't a suicide pact. We don't really need to be, the government doesn't really need to be constrained by the thing.
the government has been constrained by the thing since Washington was in office.
Well, we had this very discussion on one of Suzanne's posts that I've kind of backed out. I said my piece and I backed out because I didn't want to get into an argument with a very prominent person that's a mutual friend, and so I didn't want to ruffle any feathers in that. I'm stated my case a second time, and I just left it at that because, quite honestly, the Constitution, in my estimation, was designed to bring us to where we are. Read the Virginia ratification debates. Read Brutus. Read Cato. Read The American Farmer. All these anti-federalist writings. Just read them and tell me that they did not see this coming. Patrick Henry told us that this was coming. He told us that this Constitution would be the destruction of the states.
Read the Virginia plan that was voted down repeatedly at convention and tell me that's not what we have today.
Well, that was what they intended. That's what Hamilton and Madison wanted. And my original statement in that was that Hamilton and Madison lied when they're Federalists and it got ratified. They told us over and over again that, oh, it's just limited. They can't do this. They can't do that. Well, and the anti-Federalists, who were the Federalists, don't get it wrong. The Federalists were nationalists. The anti-Federalists were the Federalists. They told us where it was going, that it was going to be a destruction of the states, that it was going to turn into what we have today. The Federalists, the nationalists, Madison and Hamilton, kept telling us, oh, no. They can't possible because it's limiting it. It limits their power. Who told the truth? And, okay, who lied? Because one side had to be telling the truth and one side had to be telling a lie because they can't both be telling truth. And I'm sorry. If that offends, I'm sorry. Madison and Hamilton obfuscated the truth. Okay? So I won't say they lied because I can't prove they lied. But the truth was bent to fit the narrative, and it was ratified.
And it wasn't ratified by wide margins either. It was like 10 votes here, 5 votes there.
Well, and again, there is some intrigue in this whole thing too, because there was a letter from New York to Virginia that was held up. Had the letter gotten to Virginia, Virginia would have never ratified.
The letter was sitting on
a no, and then New York would have been a no. But because that letter never made it there until long after the vote, magically, they ratified. So there's intrigue. No one knows.
It was actually there, Jeff. It was sitting on Governor Randolph's desk, and he refused to bring it to the panel. He didn't even open it. He just left it there because that's why Mason called for hearings to be held on whether or not Randolph was guilty of crimes against the state or whatever for not having revealed that to the committee.
Well, there was all kinds of intrigue. I would not put it past Hamilton and Madison to have built in flaws that they could exploit to get to what they wanted. And if you read the anti-federalist writings, they will tell you all those flaws and tell you where it was going to lead. The standing army, the taxation. A lot of them were very, very upset that taxation was put into that whole thing. John Tiller of Caroline. The taxation, the destruction of the states being subjugated by the federal government. The agent subjugated the parties to the contract. So, you can't look at those writings from that time. I mean, who knew what was going on better? People from that time that were there at the ratification debates, or the people today that sit there back and they say, well, it's this or it's that. It's holy script. I'm so sick of this whole inspired document thing.
Hey, okay, just to be very clear on this. If it was the inspired word of God, like the Bible, why would there be a clause in it known as Article 5 that allows it to be amended. Because the last I checked, God didn't make any mistakes.
No, there's no Article 5 in the Bible.
I can't find one. I mean, there's plenty of stories where kings tried to put Article 5s in the Bible and manually did it, and it never turned out for them. King Jehoiakim was one of them. But it just, I tell you, if it's inspired writ, then it wouldn't have ever needed a process to be amended. It would have been there. It would have been perfect. To say that it's inspired writ and then to put in that there's an Article 5 ability to amend a document proves that it's not holy writ, or you're saying God can make a mistake. And if God can make a mistake, we're all in trouble.
Right. Well, that it's just becoming to this point where I cannot deal with this whole idea that this is somehow that God wanted us to live under socialism. I don't know. Okay, enough of that. Let's move on to some of these other stories that we got. We had no intention to get off on this document, and it's really funny because Suzanne and I were in a discussion as well that someone was like, "Well, on the 4th of July, we need to have a big Constitution celebration." I was like, "Oh yeah, that's right. On July 4th, the Constitution was declared."
And never mind that it was actually signed on the 2nd and not the 4th. But
well, we know that. But okay, neither here nor there. It was pretty much given to the people on the 4th. We can deal with that 2 days. I can deal with that. But this whole idea, again, this whole Constitution worship. And it's that's this point where I'm not going to be kind to the Constitution because it is a document that brought us to where we're at. The flaws were there that gave government the ability to do what it's doing, and that prove that statement wrong. That's all I'm going to say. Just prove that statement wrong, because if it's somehow strong enough to keep them from doing it, then why are they doing it? Obviously, it's not sufficient to keep them from doing it. So, and that's precisely what the Anti-Federalists told us, that it would constrain them, and we'd have a consolidated government, and the states would be destroyed. That's what we got. So, again, did they lie? I can't say that because I wasn't there. Did the truth get bent to get it ratified? That you can say that because it got ratified because they told us that it was a limiting document. Well, it really isn't, and the Anti-Federalists said that, and they were correct. So, all right. So, what are we gonna do? We're gonna move right on to this next article.
Yeah. So let's get right into it because that's
all right. Let's get to this PA thing we just talked about before, because we're both from Pennsylvania. Every once in a while, we'd like to throw in some Pennsylvania news because, we're here. And you know what? Just because it's Pennsylvania doing it, I'm sure that the state you're in is probably doing it as well. Because, be honest, what state is using your money wisely? This is
internal improvements, Jeff. We need internal improvements.
Yeah. Are you gonna?
That's code word the article corruption. But okay, go for it.
All right. I didn't know if you wanted to do the article. I have it in front of me here.
If you want me to do it, I can do it. It doesn't matter. I got to pull it up here.
I have it right here in front of me. I have it printed right out. So.
All right.
After PA. Okay, this is Pennsylvania politics. This is from. Let's see. I can't even remember where this from. It was one of the PA news sites on the internet. I don't even have the person that wrote it now. That page just didn't print out.
Jane Murphy.
Okay. After PA spent $800 million on a worthless quote unquote radio system, audit seeks to help get it right this time. This is from May 3rd. Auditor General Eugene Despasquale announced on Thursday his office is about to begin an audit on the final years of a former contract for the statewide radio system, as well as one for a replacement system. There it is, Jan Murphy. That was the headline. after Pennsylvania taxpayers got hit with paying for an $800 million statewide radio system that has been described as worthless. State Auditor General Eugene Despasquale wants to be sure history doesn't repeat itself with the system that is replacing it. Despasquale announced on Thursday that his office will soon begin an audit of the $49 million contract for the new radio system that is being deployed and the Pennsylvania State Police are already using in parts of the state. It also is intended to serve other agencies. I'll stop there for right now. So they spent $800 million. I was telling Daniel right before the show, right that direction. You can't tell which way I'm pointing, but I put it that way. Anyway, right that direction, about 5 miles, right down the end of the road, right before the New York border, there's a big tower with an antenna on top and a box on it. It's part of that $800 million. I know exactly where one of the towers is. They're all over the place. They're repeater towers. They put them all across the state. $800 million. And does it work? No. They're going to spend another $50 million to replace it. So they spent $800 million to put a system in, and now somehow $50 million is going to make it work.
Jeff, are you familiar with ham radio repeaters?
I know I know. Yeah,
you know
I'm not
the
a ham
basics.
operator, but I understand it.
Well, I am. We have the way that repeaters go up. Club gets together, pulls their money, couple $100, maybe a couple $1,000, depending on how big a repeater and how big a tower and what bands they're using. They put it up. They get the FCC clearance for it. There's already an existing tower system in the state built with fractions. We're talking like take-home money from guys, what do you want to call it?
It was private money.
Yeah, private money that was disposable income. That's what I was thinking of. Done with disposable income. There was no reason for the state to spend $800 million building a system. Any ham operator that knows that runs a repeater could have showed them how to build the system to where it would have worked.
Yes, Daniel, but that money was spent for a reason because somebody's friend got rich. Go ahead.
Which goes back to the internal improvements part of the argument, which whenever you hear a politician ever say internal improvements or infrastructure, draw yourself an equal sign and write corruption beside it, because it's going to one of his cronies that donated to his campaign, or if it didn't donate to his campaign, they're lobbying him, or they're lobbying his friend that needs the money for the seat beside him. Always track the money. It always goes back to somebody that's politically connected.
Or to one of their family members. We had he's now passed away. John Murtha, who was a congressman. He was in the federal government from out towards Erie. And his family got massively rich off of him. He was always putting pork barrel spending in the bills in Washington that made it back to his family and their businesses. So they got different contracts to do different things. His family got massively rich off of him being in Washington. That's how this all works. Washington or the states, same thing.
I want to say Murphy was a little closer to Altoona. I'd have to double check.
It was out towards Erie. It might have been
somewhere
south
in that area.
I'm not quite sure, but it was out that direction.
Yeah, because I think he's the one that got the airport built in Altoona, and everybody was sitting there scratching their heads of why does Altoona need an airport? But that's neither here nor there now. I mean, they have an international airport. It's either international or regional. And no one can figure out why, but they have one. I guess he wanted a quicker way to fly home from D.C.
So anyway, they've already wasted $800 million. For all intents and purposes, $1 billion. They've wasted $1 billion on a system that doesn't work.
I like how he waited until the end of the $49 million replacement system to decide to audit it. I mean, what guts did that take? Shouldn't you have audited it? I don't know. When it started,
about $700 million ago.
I mean, certainly somewhere before you spent $850 billion that you don't have.
Or how about $750 million ago? Because that would have been $50 million. Now they're going to spend $50 million, and somehow this $50 million is going to fix what $800 million in spending couldn't do.
So I don't know whether we should say kudos for them being able to bring the new system in for only $50 billion. When it took them 50 million versus 800 million for the old system. Now, granted, the towers won't need to be rebuilt, but
right. And again, I understand that. We were discussing this earlier. I understand the whole concept that there's a tower there, there's an antenna there, there's the powers there, all the other infrastructure has been built, and I don't know how it spent $800 million to do that. It's a telephone pole. I'm telling you, I know it's there. It's a telephone pole. You know, okay, if telephone pole is just a little bit of money, not very much.
It actually should have
not terribly expensive.
If they put that on did they actually put that on a telephone pole?
Yes.
Oh dear Lord, you're not supposed to use telephone poles. You're supposed to.
No, they put their own pole in the ground. It's on their. It's their pole. It's on right along the edge of the road. It's
what I'm saying though is it should have been a metal.
Oh, I understand.
We never use wood poles to my knowledge when we build radios. We get an actual tower kit and we put the tower up on steel because then it grounds everything. It's just a nice.
I'm sure they ran a whole bunch of ground wires and stuff, but yes, I understand.
Yeah, so because telephone poles break too easy, they rot, which means you got to come back out and fix them.
Well, somebody's going to have to come out and fix them. Somebody's going to get rich fixing them.
Somebody's going to make a lot more money too. More internal improvements will be made on your taxpayer dollars.
Yeah. So let's hear what Des Pasquale has to say. This time, the time is right to take a deep dive to ensure Pennsylvania gets it right this time. Oh, so you wasted $800 million, but now the time is right to make sure we don't waste $50 million.
At least he's trying.
He is?
At least he's trying.
Let's see. The audit will look at the bidding process that led to the awarding of the contract in 2016 to Chicago-based Motorola Solutions. There you go. Motorola Solutions made a bundle of money. The audit will also look at the first 2 years of costs associated with that contract's implementation and the current status. Let's see. Over time, the project scope expanded and the state kept pouring money into it, letting the tab skyrocket to $800 million. So a $50 million job in the state of Pennsylvania balloons to almost $1 billion. And no one thought to audit it until they had to spend another $50 million to fix the $800 million screw up.
Yeah, again, don't you think it should have been audited like $750 billion or $750 million ago?
Well, that's what I said. Why didn't you audit it $750 million ago? $50 million. If it's $50 million to fix it, then why in the heck didn't you at $50 million go, well, there's something not working here. Let's audit this and figure out why they can't get it right. But no, they wait until they, $800 million. Oh, I don't know. Do we have anything else in here that he said that was interesting? I don't see anything. No. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. It's just Pennsylvania doing what every other state does. They waste money. Government never does anything well. Anything that government does will be a disaster. They'll waste money. That's why what Daniel said earlier with the ham guys. They'll spend their own money, put up a tower, and it works. Yet they had Motorola come in here, and $800 million later, it's a worthless system. They're going to have to spend money to replace the system they put in. And Daniel was right. Before the show, he said they should have called the ham operators of Pennsylvania. They would have got it right the first time. They would have let them let them use their towers that they already put up at their own expense, put their antenna on, and the whole system would have worked. But
yeah, they could have built a nice system, would have been done right, would have had the proper text there to build it, wouldn't have cost them probably more than $50 million to begin with. Because the towers were already there.
They would have had to buy the repeaters. They would have had to buy different things. I understand that. I'm not saying that to you, Daniel. I'm saying that to people in general. I understand that whole concept that, it's going to cost them money to buy these. And the state police use this system so they can contact. And quite honestly, where I live, there's dead spots everywhere for the fire service, for the police, because the nature of radios. We have a lot of holes. And so this system was supposed to get rid of a lot of those holes for the state troopers and for fire service and everyone else, because there's a lot of people that were using these. So
yeah, because just to bring everybody up to speed, I am a general class ham radio op. Radios operate with I don't know what's going on with this Shepherd, but anyway, I'm a general class ham operator to start from the beginning. Most radios work site to site. They don't really acknowledge the curvature of the earth. If I can see you, I can talk to you on a radio normally. When you get up to 10 meters, you start bouncing it off the ground and off the atmosphere and all that crazy stuff. Then your power starts coming into play. The problem is between the FCC, which that's a different discussion for a different time on whether or not they should even exist, and your little community things that will go, oh, you can't use radios here and there and their site stores and all that other garbage. That's where, and then in Pennsylvania, if you've never been here, we're kind of hilly. So 2 meters not going to go through rock. It just won't. It'll bounce right off. So you could literally have a state trooper on one side of the PA Turnpike that's on one side of a tunnel. Can't talk to the other guy that's on the other side of the tunnel because it's not going to work. It's never going to go through the tunnel. And that's why you build the repeaters. You put a repeater on the mountain. Now you can skip a couple mountains and still get the signal down. But just because you can get the signal from the repeater to the radio doesn't mean you can get the signal from the radio to the repeater. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, but it shouldn't have cost them $850 million to figure it out.
Yeah. And again, it's just government at its normal. It does everything inefficiently. Government is inefficient. So Pennsylvania is no different than any other state. I'm sure that your state has a story very similar. I'm sure you could, tell us your horror stories from whatever state you're in. And the fact of the matter is, we let our representatives do this to us over and over again. Because you'll call your representative, they're going to do it. I can call my representative. He's retired, and now we've just had a special election. We just put a new guy in to finish his term, and he'll be just as useless as the guy that left. I like the guy that left. He was a nice guy. I've met him a number of times. I know him very well. But he's a useless suit. He was, he was a yes man for the leadership, and he just did what they said. And I'm sure that his replacement will be the exact same way.
Oh, yeah.
But we allow this to go on in Harrisburg. We allow it to go on in Washington. These people never are held to account for their crimes. And they're committing crimes. So someone's getting rich off their legislation. They're stealing our money and giving it to their pals. Yet somehow that's called legislation.
Were you aware that before 1861, most of the states had on the books or as part of their constitutions laws or verbiage that banned the government from doing things like internal improvements because it came out to this kind of boondoggle. They were over expensive. They never worked.
wasn't it Madison that there was he wanted to do some improvements and the Congress passed it and sent it to his desk and then he vetoed it. Wasn't it the bonus bill or something where he vetoed it and said, you can't do it. We weren't given the authority. You have to get an amendment. You have to amend the Constitution to do this. In spite of the fact that he wanted it, but he said, well, just because I want it doesn't mean you can do it. It has to amend the. So I don't know. We've allowed this government to do what it does, and it falls on us. We, the people, are the power. They serve at our good pleasure. Yet somehow they've turned the table on us, and government now rules us. So,
yeah, because in a republic, the power resides with the people, not with the government.
Well, honestly, no matter, the people, whether you're in China or wherever, I mean, you have the power. You're the sovereign. I mean, you can. Jefferson stated it perfectly in the Declaration of Independence. You have the power to abolish or amend your government. It doesn't matter. I mean, so if people in China decide they want to get rid of communism, yeah, that's their choice. And here we need to do. People need to take it seriously. What the revolutionary principles were, and that what Jefferson espoused in the Declaration. And that was a conversation that Suzanne and I had with that one person. Yet they couldn't get past the fact that the Constitution. No, the Declaration is the principles that this all comes from. If we aren't the sovereign, then the government can do whatever it wants. So, what else did you have there, Daniel? Do you have any other stories? What was your next story you wanted to talk about?
Oh, well, we got all the wonderful FBI stories here. I mean, apparently, you want to talk about boondoggles. I don't know if you've been keeping up with this, Jeff, but apparently they walked the guy out about 2 weeks ago because he's being investigated for possibly having more of an interfering look and changing witness testimony and a whole mess of other things, to the point where the House is literally screaming they're going to start, what is it? Gowdy, House will use full arsenal of constitutional weapons to get DOJ, FBI compliance on subpoenas. House Oversight and Government Reform Committee Chairman Trey Gowdy said on Sunday, now this was back on the 17th, so this would be last Sunday, said on Sunday that there will be action in the House this week if the FBI and the DOJ do not comply with subpoena requests. He said, we either have compliance, we have partial compliance, or we have non-compliance. And Speaker Paul Ryan made it very clear that there's going to be action on the floor of the House this week if the FBI and DOJ do not comply with our subpoena requests. Now, this all boiled down to the fact where the undersecretary or the assistant secretary, I'm not sure where he's at, literally looked, I guess, at this committee and said, I will subpoena your emails and your phone records if you persist. So, who's got the authority in the federal government here? Is it your House of Representatives, the elected officials, or is it the nameless, faceless bureaucrats that work at the FBI and the CIA that now seem to think they can be so bold as to tell Congress where they can get off?
Well, I did discuss these. I have these articles here. I discussed those last Monday during my show. And the whole, my starting point with this, because I read these articles here, and my starting point was, number one, where in the Constitution do we have the authority given to the general government to have the FBI, the BTAF, you name your law enforcement that's coming out of Washington, D.C. Name the article and section that gives them jurisdiction in any crime other than 3, named in the Constitution. Extra credit for the students out there that can message on our Facebook page what those 3 crimes are. You'll get a gold star for the night if you can name the 3 crimes, only 3, that are delegated by the states to the general government. Policing is a municipal power. It remains in the states with the people.
Madison even said that in the interposition, was it nullification interposition?
Yeah, Virginia. Madison wrote the Virginia Resolution of 1798.
Right, and it says it's a municipal power, and the states never gave it to the Fed, and unless we're at war, the Fed cannot be claiming it to begin with. So it's up to the state, because he was dealing with immigration at the time, and whether the Fed was trying to say, well, they could stop whoever they wanted at the border, whether they were invited in by a state or not.
Right. Again, that's another conversation I don't think we have time for, because immigration and naturalization are 2 different things. This was all in relation to the Alien and Sedition Act.
And that's
what you're discussing is the Alien and Sedition Act. Jefferson wrote the Kentucky Resolution. Madison wrote the Virginia Resolution. Madison was more on interposition, or so the state gets in between the federal government and the citizen. Jefferson was more nullification, where the state legislature says that has no effect in our state. It's null and void. It's not they had no constitutional authority to do it. So our legislation says, get out of here. Tough luck. So yes, that is correct, Daniel, that what Madison did with that. But again, here we go. My first thought is, why do we have an FBI to begin with? They're not constitutional. They shouldn't be there. And Congress is going to abdicate its position again. And all that, here's the solution. You're not going to give us the subpoenas? Fine. You will get $0. They abolish it. It should go away completely. That said, if they're not going to do that, they should say you're going to get $0 budgets until you comply with the subpoena. Done. Now do your job.
If the FBI subpoenas you, Jeff, do you get to tell them, no, I'm not going to comply? All right, no. That's basically what they're telling Congress. You can subpoena us all you want. We're just not going to obey you. We don't give a flying hoot what you think or what you say. We're going to operate the way we operate. You'll just have to get over it. But you as a citizen,
who has the purse string? Who funds them?
It'd be like me walking into my boss and telling my boss, I don't care how I drive. You can't do nothing about it, and then walking out of his office and expecting him to keep me as an employee.
Again, they should abolish them completely. Since I'm realistic enough to know that's not going to happen. If they were serious, here's the deal. How much time do we have? We got 10 minutes. Here's the deal. All you people out there that think this is, oh, yes, Trey County, he's going to get her. Yeah, red meat, I'm hungry. All it is, it's just some red meat they're going to throw to you, and you're going to, yeah. Political theater. All it is. You know why it's political theater? Because they're all in it together.
Well, they're all going out for drinks as soon as the hammer hits the gavel and partying it up.
Yeah, they're all in it together. There is, in reality, there's no such thing as Republican and Democrat. They are all government elites. That's all they are. And just because they have different groups that get their benefit doesn't mean they're not in together. Just because the Democrats want to give it to illegal aliens, give it to welfare people, doesn't make them any less the socialists than they are. The Republicans just want to give it to their corporate buddies and give it to their chosen people. Doesn't make them any less socialist than they are. They're all socialist. They all want to separate you from your wealth so that they can become rich and that their benefit class will get rich. The producers are going to lose out every time under socialism. And that's what we live on. Don't fool yourself. We don't live under, this isn't a republic. We live under a Soviet-style type of government, a top-down command and control government. Try to do anything. I had an article here I was going to try to get to tonight. Not going to get there. It's from Mises. If you want to read a good article, go to Mises Institute. It's called The Problem with Government Licensing Schemes. It was published on June 14, 2018. And I don't see the I don't see who wrote it, but it's in the Mises Institute. Try to become a doctor or nurse without getting a license. Try to be a plumber without getting a license. Try to cut hair without getting a license. Try to drive a truck, right, Daniel, without a license.
Oh, I need my
the federal okay.
Try operating a nonprofit ham radio station without having the government's blessing before you do it.
You and everyone out there, you somehow think you're free. That's freedom. I mean, it's time to be honest, folks. Stop being confused with this what we have today, which is a national government, and what we had prior to the Constitution, which was federalism. We had federalism. We had a federal system set up under the Articles of Confederation. And why did the Articles of Confederation have to go away? So we could have a national government. Who did that? Madison and Hamilton. Going back to our original discussion.
Oh, yes. The conspiracy was thick in Annapolis when they got that vote through.
So anything else to go with that? I mean, I'm sorry, I kind of took off with that one.
There was one good news. We pulled out of the UN. Well,
the
UN, what is it? The UN Human Rights Council.
Human Rights Council.
We should have pulled out of the UN at the same time and told them to go all pound sand. And by the way, they got 30 days to clean their offices out. But
yeah, get off of Manhattan.
Prime real estate. I believe our vainglorious president actually had plans to turn that into condos at one time. I wonder why he hasn't decided that we should look into that further.
I don't know.
I would actually be for him opening a hotel there versus those clowns being there.
I have no problem if the government should get us out of that. Number one, it would save me money because they wouldn't have to be giving them billions every year. I'm not sure what their annual budget is. It's billions. So that means they'd have to steal less from me. And then in the long run, we wouldn't have to have our people going all over the world to be peacekeepers, be the policemen of the world, because the vast majority of it we foot the bill for. So, I mean, it would save us money. But again, then our standing army, which Patrick Henry in the Virginia ratification debates warned us about, because again, the Constitution opened the door wide open for that standing army, and here we are. Read what Madison said about standing armies. Madison was kind of one of those, to me, he's like one of those bipolar guys. One minute he's like all about federalism, next minute he's all about nationalism. He's like bipolar. I can never figure him out. I mean, he pushed the Virginia plan, and what was it? It was nationalism. It was a strong national government. Yet at the same time, he talks all this good federalism stuff. I mean, I can't figure Madison out.
I wonder how many times Jefferson opened a letter from him, and as he's opening, he goes, "Oh, I wonder what kick we're on this week."
I wonder if he's on his Ritalin.
Which Madison am I going to get in the mail this time?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. History is interesting, folks. I mean, before we get out here, because we're getting close, we're down to like 4 minutes. It's interesting to read what these guys said. I mean, don't take my word for it. I mean, you guys that listen a lot, I read a lot of Patrick Henry on the air because, he was brilliant. if you can do it, read John Taylor Caroline. John Taylor was by one of I think it was Dr. Gutzman. I'll just say his name. I think Dr. Gutzman called him the brains of the Virginia dynasty. He was. What happened with the Virginia dynasty, whether it was the Virginia and the Kentucky resolutions, John Taylor's fingerprints were on all those things. What's that?
He served as a senator from Virginia there for a while too.
Right. And he argued before the Supreme Court. Again, I don't know why they called it the Supreme Court. And again, we had this discussion the other day. 3 minutes. We had this discussion the other day. The court was designed to be the weakest link. This whole idea in elementary school, they start teaching that we have 3 co-equal branches. That's crap. We do not have 3 co-equal branches. We have the legislature, the executive, and then on the very bottom, almost off the chart, is the courts. The one that had that they vested the power in were the legislators. The Senate was supposed to be appointed by the state to represent the state. The representatives were elected by the people in their district to represent the people of that district. That's another discussion for another day. And they were supposed to be the ones in charge, not the other 2 branches. So
just
that
like
whole public school thing.
Yeah, it was supposed to be set up exactly like the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The House of Lords, other than the lifetime appointment. House of Lords is a lifetime appointment. You get there because of your family title. House of Commons over in Britain is elected position. A prime minister can only come out of the House of Commons. He can't come out of the House of Lords. The Commons has all the power, and then it will send a bill to the House of Lords before it makes it to the prime minister's desk for a signature. And the prime minister is nothing more. He's like a glorious vice president or speaker of the House. Yes, Jeff.
Giving you our time countdown.
Oh, yes. I got it queued up. I just haven't hit play yet. It would help if I unmuted it too. Anyway, this has been another wonderful episode of the Renegade and the Rambler Show. We appreciate you joining with us, and we hope to see you again next week, as long as our schedules match, which hopefully they will. Jeff, you want to say anything as we leave?
Nope. I'll be around next Saturday night for a show.
All right. So,
it might be late. It might be 9 or so. I have a wedding. Niece getting married. Congratulations, Taylor and Connor.
Congratulations, Taylor and Connor. Fun. My niece gets married in a couple weeks too, but I'm not going to get to go. But anyway, this has been another wonderful episode of the Renegade and the Rambler Show. You can find us on Facebook. Obviously, if you're watching this, you can find us on YouTube and on just like that, I forgot. TuneIn Radio. I mean, there's an app. It's under Renegade Rambler.
SoundCloud.
Radio. It's not under the new name. Just because it's a pain in the butt to change the name.
And SoundCloud.
And SoundCloud for all our old episodes. So, until next time, have a good week. Stay safe. Keep the rubber down.